Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Not me. No way. Can't do it. It's Friday. We're enjoying our lives. It's a beautiful one here in the South. I see it's not quite as incredibly cold up north. So, congratulations. We're getting towards the end of February. Things are starting to warm up. Spring shouldn't be long now. I look forward to getting back in springtime. I like all the seasons, of course. And I hear that not everyone is suffering through the northern cold. Let me get to the chat. We got people coming in from the California desert, Johnny Midas, the beautiful California desert. We got folks coming all over on the Rumble chat. Hey, 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 gang. Happy Friday. Great to be with y'all. Citadel Daniel says, good morning, gang. Greg Anasta says, good morning, Awakeners. If you're crying and buying, you're doing things right. Lance says, good morning, gang. JJ Fox, a hotel in California, and every room is listed as the headquarters for a nursing group. Gavin. Dis, says JJ Fox. Efficiency, JJ Fox, indeed. It's nice to have these really compact frauds, right? You need your fraud in one place. Who wants to go around for fraud, right? You need efficient fraud systems. Satoshi predicted it. Indeed. Welcome to Hotel California. Good morning, very fine people. Excited for the Friday sermon from our revered cult leader, Count BTC. Thank you for the title. I appreciate it. Oy vey, says JJ Fox. Don't need an earthquake here. We deserve an earthquake here. Try stabbing it with your steely knives, says CB Van. Wait, that doesn't work. JJ Fox, great. Now the solo is stuck in my head. Just can't kill the beat. No way. Good lucky morning, beautiful Bampians. Chef Zero's in the house. We don't mention earthquakes in polite company here in California country. Good idea. We don't like earthquakes, by the way. I've never enjoyed being in the earthquakes. We don't like the earthquakes. We don't care about hurricanes. We don't care about typhoons. Never lived, well, no, that's not true. I have lived through a tornado. We do get tornadoes where I live on the Vermont-Quebec border. They'll come in off the flatlands in the St. Lawrence Valley where it's all very flat. And if we have those rare occasions where there are differences between the mountain temperatures and the Appalachians. I don't say Appalachians, thank you. I'm from the north. We say Appalachians. And so if you have a big disparity, you will get, and I had one when I was a kid. I had a tornado come by my house. I was bawling and praying to God. I was about 5 years old. I just moved into that house. And I'll never forget it. Huge down trees everywhere. So they're not exactly tornadoes. They kind of flip over top of themselves more than this kind of vortex, but they can do damage. I had one of the first times I'd ever been on an airplane in my life. I was out in Vancouver, and I turned on the old CBC, the Canadian news, at the 6 o'clock hour. And my little hometown was the first story because we had another one of those. And I actually ended up having a summer job clearing all the debris. And I went through like a trail, like a several mile long trail through the Appalachians where this thing had touched down. Nobody died, but the damage was extensive. So I have been through those, just so you know. I've done it all. I've done the earthquake. Sorry, I've done earthquakes. I've done the pandemic, like many of you. I've done the volcano. I've been in a volcano situation. Several hurricanes and typhoons, but the worst really are the earthquakes. They're the most disorienting of all that I've experienced. Tornado's not great, but nothing as terrible as a real good earthquake. Something about it. Confirming the sun has risen in New Jersey. Thank you for the sunrise confirmation. Escape the Matrix, indeed. We're doing them. It's showtime. Good morning, Count. Let them there. Countisms. We're going to have fun. Chatelet, indeed. Very fine people. Shut up. The show is starting. What a nice reward Friday is. A reward making through another wonderful week. It sure is. I was in San Francisco for the 87 World Series Quake. Don't you mean the 91? I think you mean... No, 89. 89. I watched that game live. It was one of the first baseball games. I just got into baseball that year as a little kid. That was my first year watching, and that's how I know it's 89. But I do remember that one, the Oakland A's versus the San Francisco Giants. I was a Will the Thrill fan. Beautiful, sweet swing. Can't remember his last name now. Speaking of tornadoes, I watched the movie Take Shelter last night. It's pretty good with what's going on in the world right now. I didn't know. Yeah, 89. Everyone says it. Yeah, I've missed the live show. Dartoshi Sabamoto in the house. Barely 45 says, Happy Friday and Chatelet. Indeed, we got confirmation of sunrise tech throughout America. We see it here. It's happening. It's in Jersey. It's in Florida. It's here in the Caribbean. It's happening up north. And Bitcoin is also running 67,000 US trash tokens. Will Clark, indeed. 67,000 US trash tokens. That is what is happening. We're doing great. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. I got a fun show for you guys today. I found some extra special NPC news. Experts say is starting to become not as fertile land as I'd hoped. Climate change is just not bringing up the results you want. But if you put in Trump authoritarianism, boy, do you catch some NPC news. So we've got a new strategy on our hands. Let's see how it goes. I hope you like them. Yeah, it is best to really just focus on Trump when you're trying to get the fake news because of Trump derangement syndrome. It really does sort of tie the room together, you know? That's what you need. All right, let's get started. Let's see what's up. First up here, we've got the following. Oh, no, I made a mistake. Okay, hold on. I'm going to get rid of this. Stop sharing. I'm going to go back to this, which is a different set of pages. You don't see the interface. And then I do that, and then I do that, and then we have it perfect. There we go. Guys, you're not going to believe it. The House GOP, according to the PBS News, very close to being the NPC News. I'm so glad they actually have an NPC in the logo. It's just perfect. The House GOP pushes strict proof of citizenship versus the not strict, which is, I swear I'm a citizen. Can you believe it? There you go. Strict. They're going to be strict about it. All of the U.S. government's anti-climate moves in the last 7 days. The U.S. government is anti-climate. They hate the climate. I hate the climate. That's what's up. I hate the climate. So here's all the things, the anti-climate moves they've done. You can believe them all. They're all true. We also got this. Oh, no. What's going on here? Okay, maybe this will work. Oop. There we go. Parallels. This is a great one here from the Fulcrum. Ready? Parallels. What's my thing wobbling so much for? Stop wobbling. It's like the polar vortex. The wobbling polar vortex is like the wobbling laptop today. Guys, bad news. Parallels and patterns. George Orwell's 1984, Hitler's Nazi, and Trump 2.0. How authoritarian patterns in Orwell's 1984 and Nazi Germany echo in Trump's political rhetoric and governance. I got puppet strings in my emoji today, in my thumbnail today. I mean, we're going to be talking about that, puppet strings. When the light of democracy goes dark, arresting journalists. Look at the hero. There he is, Don Lemon, and the light of democracy going dark. Unbelievable. The Idaho statesman. The light, everyone, take a moment. I know we like to acknowledge the light of the sun and sunrise tech, which is operational. But unfortunately, the light of democracy is not. I have confirmations from enough of you. I can declare that there is no more light of democracy. It died in darkness with the Washington Post. MAGA aesthetics and fascist power. Spectacles of white supremacy. It's a very good one. Very good. This is from Canada, everyone. What would a U.S. Civil War mean for Canada? If Americans start shooting back at ICE and Trump sends in the army, the country could tip into a large-scale violence. What it would mean for Canada? How would Canada do? How would Canada do? Right. Well, there you go. Less likely and still possible is the prospect that Americans might cross the border and launch attacks from Canadian territory. Canada. Good thing they have their Patterson Chair in International Affairs at Carleton University, Stephen Sedman, helping all the Canadians prepare for U.S. Civil War. This is a good one, too. Rabble.ca, more Canadian news. Trump's malignant narcissism and territorial imperialism fit hand in glove. We urgently need perspective. As the American empire declines, Donald Trump's narcissism is exacerbating a global crisis. How often does exacerbate come up in the NPC news? I think exacerbate might be one of the worst NPC word offenders out there. This is from the New Republic. Trump is a weak and failing president, everyone. Finally, Dems are acting like it. So we've got, as Trump's losses mount on many fronts, TNR editor Michael Tomasky discusses our special issue, which is chock full of pieces explaining how Democrats can take advantage of this highly fluid moment. So good. Health impacts of climate change, what experts say Trump is ignoring. We already heard the offenses he's made. And finally, we got this one. No, please, Vox, I want it. No, I need this headline. I need it. Where did it go? I'm going to read it quickly. Trump discovers the road to autocracy is lined with potholes. There we go. The president just lost another battle in his war on democracy. Wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. Trump just, what a loser, huh? What a complete loser. Just losing everywhere. Non-stop losing. And our last one for the day, and this will bring us into our normal news. Bad news, everyone. From the Daily Mail, Bitcoin will go to zero. Wall Street heavyweights tell me it's a scam. If you hold it, be prepared to lose everything, says Ruth Sunderland. I'm Ruth. I'm a journalist. I'm taking a picture. I'm totally chill. I'm totally chill. Look at my neck. This is how you take pictures. This is how you do it. This is how you take a picture. So Ruth Sunderland. Did she have a conversation at all with anyone named, I guess maybe she doesn't think Larry Fink is a heavyweight or JP Morgan or any of these folks. I guess she thinks all of them are dumb, right? I got this one from the Bitcoin historian. JP Morgan says yesterday that 4 trillion US trash tokens could be buying Bitcoin this year. So Ruth, baby, Ruth, please, baby Ruth, please. Baby Ruth, please ask Larry Fink what's going on. Did you talk to anyone at JP Morgan? No. Here's Ben McKenzie, too. He's got some advice for us. And so Ben McKenzie's back, everyone. He's back. Ben McKenzie. He's back. Anti-crypto marketeer Ben McKenzie reappears conveniently after Bitcoin has fallen 50% from new all-time highs to call it the largest Ponzi scheme ever, and says it's going to take the entire financial system down. Well, I hope so, Ben. I hope it does. That's kind of why we're in the game. That's what we'd like to see. So isn't it funny that you get all of these demoralization campaigns right at this time, right? You get these demoralization campaigns. So Ben McKenzie back. I love how he's still doing the Jake Tapper puppy dog, but it was going to take down the system, right? What I also love is that this guy comes out just as James Van Der Beek, because they're kind of, successors or from the same era, if you will. So isn't it just interesting to see the contrast between James Van Der Beek and Ben McKenzie? Hey, Ben, Hey, guys, you gotta. I'm really concerned for you. It's really sad. It's really hard. It's gonna take down the whole system. No, don't take down the system. The system's going so great. We gotta keep it up at all costs, Ben. Help us make another TV show. We need more of your TV shows to help us. It's the only way to keep the system going. So weirdly, we also had Stefan Molyneux yesterday do a whole show on demoralization campaigns. Here he is, one of the earliest Bitcoiners, one of the people who I think we can all agree has been through one of the biggest shitstorms. I know I talked about all the natural disasters I lived through. I also lived through the war on crypto and all that stuff, but I don't think anyone was on the front lines quite as much as Stefan Molyneux. Of course, he was given the Alex Jones treatment. He was completely demonetized, completely kicked out of all polite society, left for dead. But he's here. He's still around. He's still making content. I suspect he's still holding his Bitcoin. Remember, before any of this started, he was a big Bitcoin evangelist. Before Trump, before all of this stuff, Stefan Molyneux tried to make it as a, I'd say even, in the Andreas Antonopoulos level of Bitcoin evangelism in those old days. Except, of course, he got caught up in the populist vortex. He got caught up in the populist tornado of Trumpism and came out of it probably with an incredible amount of knowledge and experience and learning. And here he talks about the show he did the other day about demoralization, comparing it to leaf drifting toward a waterfall. He points out problems with cultural distractions, media manipulation, and the decline in family values while pushing people to consider their own choices and what matters most. He advocates for a group effort to foster resilience amid growing societal despair. And I think that's what a lot of Bitcoiners have been focused on for a long time, of course. We'll talk about that in a second. But here he is giving a pretty good lesson. Don't forget, before all this shitstorm, before Bitcoin even, he had the largest philosophy channel on YouTube, one of the earliest YouTubers as well, so kind of ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. Weirdly, one of the only Bitcoiners I haven't, OG from that era, that I haven't really spent time with. And it's even weirder because I think he kind of lives near me. I think he lives somewhere in the Ottawa Valley between Montreal and Ottawa, or maybe down towards Cornwall. I haven't really been able to figure it out, but he's kind of from the area. And he actually went to the National Theatre School in Canada, and I used to work with a lot of National Theatre School people because I used to work in summer stock theater, which is a sort of New England, New York City phenomenon where all these little towns become the campgrounds, I guess you could say, for a lot of city actors that spend their summers out in the countryside. So this was something that has been going on for well over 100 years. I guess if you saw, what was the name again? Marvelous Miss Maisel or something like that. It was or if you remember Dirty Dancing, the movie, all these little summer cottage clubs, private country clubs and stuff that you have all across New England usually have theaters, and there's usually traveling theater groups that go through them, or towns that have actors in residency. So in the old days, you'd have had Broadway shows before air conditioning was really available. All the Broadway shows would move to the countryside for the summer, and the actors would live there. Marlon Brando, for example, did Streetcar Named Desire in Rhode Island one summer, and many such cases. Many such cases of that happening. So I worked with a lot of people that Stefan Molyneux would have worked with, and I somehow have always recognized him, his face. And even when I first got into Bitcoin, you have these people. I'm not sure if I ever met him, but we might have passed across paths just because I've always recognized him. I've always thought I knew him or met him before, and I might have. I worked in that theater for a couple of years and then hung out around that theater for a couple of years, and there were all kinds of visitors. It was a neat thing because my whole town housed the actors in various mansions and summer cottages, and cottages that are attached to mansions and estates and stuff like that. So all the actors loved these jobs because they would get to spend the summer in a very beautiful place, only 1 hour from Montreal, so they could all go back whenever they needed to or felt like. And we used to run repertory theater. So the same actors would be in 3 plays for the summer, and we would just alter the sets. And usually they'd take 2 of the 3 and they just rotated, so they'd have different days off. I ran the lighting board, and I would switch the lighting configuration between every show, and then I would run the soundboard during the show. The lighting board was easy. You had like 200 pre-programmed channels. And then usually if the show had more light settings than that, I would have to run them manually. So a couple of them for the last 15, 20 minutes, I had to do the lights myself with my hands. And it was great. It was a very fun summer job. And indeed, one of those things that left you the opposite of demoralized. It was a very uplifting community. It was a kind of tribe, you know. Before Bitcoin, all the theater kids were a pretty interesting tribe to have been a part of. Back then, all political persuasions worked. So there were communists and anarchists and super capitalists. It wasn't just the monochromatic, mentally ill communists types that you find today. But indeed, it was a lot of fun, a lot of talented people. And these demoralization campaigns that you see Stefan Molyneux talk about here, you know, even in light of what we saw, like I said, with Ben McKenzie showing up when he shows up, you got to realize these have been going on for a long time. Here's a Russian fella that everyone knows, the ex-KGB agent. You see him in all kinds of stuff talking about demoralization campaigns. It's kind of in the news today. I'm going to share and then reshare because I want to make sure you get the audio on this, and I'm not sure that's happening right now. So I'm going to reshare, and then we're going to put the audio on for this to make sure you can all hear it, and you'll hear from a KGB agent himself what these demoralization campaigns were all about. And you shall.
Demoralization, it takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. Ecological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated. These people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be the greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, mentioned before.
And you can see some of this coming through. Here's, what's his name, Nick Fuentes, saying he runs demoralization campaigns, believe it or not. Here he is saying exactly that. Flat out admits running a demoralization campaign against MAGA. A lot of people have believed this for a while, right? I am intentionally and self-consciously and willfully demoralizing you. Everybody that voted for this needs to feel bad. So now look, you got to also understand that Nick Fuentes is an inheritor of the Howard Stern shock jock doctrine. So him saying demoralization doesn't mean, and him even coming out and saying it straight up doesn't mean it's really what he believes. You know, you're dealing with a top tier persuader here, but it's important to mention when he comes out and says it, you should believe people when they say what they mean. He's been in the middle of all of these breaking up MAGA types of conversations that we've been seeing over the past year. And even more, of course, he was leaning towards Kamala Harris and stuff like that, right? So again, you're in a kayfabe world, you're in a wrestling world, so don't assume that inevitably he doesn't want the same result that you do. Don't assume you understand his intentions. Don't assume what he's saying is literal. Don't assume any of these things. It's just important to know that demoralization campaigns are not just real, they're a big part of the operating system. They've existed for a long time. I think our Ben McKenzie here, right, with his very concerned look, right? We got him. We got to look at him. He really is concerned for you. I know. I just want to help people. I just want to help him. Again, compare him to James Vanderbeek, who genuinely looked like he wanted to help people with that whole thing we talked about yesterday, and God and all the other things he was talking about. And then look at the fake actor, right? Look at look at the low skilled acting loser. I mean, this guy hasn't had an acting job. I mean, what has he been in the last 20 years since he was a somewhat popular um, um, teenage heartthrob kind of guy, right? I don't think his popularity was ever at the level of a Nick Fuentes. What Nick has now, I don't think this Ben McKenzie was ever even close to the level of influence and persuasion. So Nick Fuentes, these guys, right? Demoralization campaigns, real. I've been telling you since the beginning of this MAGA, Iran, Israel, what's going on, Epstein, that all of it was a distraction, and all of it was exactly this. It was division and the old systems of divide and conquer just manifesting themselves through demoralization campaigns within this psychological battlefront that we all find ourselves in. And as we've known for a long time, the way to traverse this psychological battlefront is to understand that we're in a P2P information environment, and aligning yourselves with optimistic Bitcoiners is one of the ways to survive this. Remember, Bitcoin is a P2P information network. And so when you see folks like Nick Fuentes and other demoralizers functioning, you understand exactly why what Naval said here, and this kind of went viral, is so important. And Naval says, people who don't organize into tribes get wiped out by people who do. Hunter Ash adds, individualism outperformed clannishness because it enabled the efficient cooperation of larger groups, the nation, or even all of Christendom, rather than the clan. But the step from wider walls to no walls at all turns individualism from a strength into an autoimmune disorder, or an immune disorder. So this goes back a little bit to what we heard about from Brian Romelli yesterday, or a few days ago, his love formula, right, which showed you that the incentives for participation and the rewards for participation have to be greater than the rewards for opting out and for leaving the system, from defecting from the system, and that each one of them will create a self-perpetuating gravitational pull and will really drag things along with them. And Andrew Torba adds, individualism worked because it existed in the context of white homogenous Christian nations. That ended, and individualism ended with it. Elon agreeing, saying exactly. And what we can see is that with Bitcoiners and Bitcoiners' ability to enhance our own cognitive security and treat the psychological battlefront as a literal battlefront in World War III, not just some abstract idea. Literally what we're fighting against. It's optimism versus pessimism. It's belief in the future versus nihilism for the future. And it looks a lot like the whiteboards I've been making for a long time, right? You can see the whiteboard frameworks that I've been using really do explain a lot of what this is all about, right? You can see I've got several of them that have for a long time, I think anyway, explain this. The bank run world, the top down world, where we see communications and institutions and security all operating in this direction, versus the bottom up world where Bitcoiners stay. That's why I always put this emoji here of laughter and fun. It's not just because I think it's cool to have. It's really how you win this war, right? And I put it in this one as well, the us banking versus the our banking system, and you see the psychological tension and the division, right? That's why this brain is being separated by a red line and a blue line, the fake prison of political ideas, the fake division Much of what you hear Nick Fuentes talking about there, these fake divisions that are really used to seize up any capacity to have an optimistic vision of the future. I mean, that's where I depart. And as someone who does enjoy Nick Fuentes's content and delivery and skills and rhetoric and all of these things, I think are top quality, right? I think his eulogy to Charlie Kirk is one of the most beautiful eulogies I've ever heard anyone, anywhere, anytime give. I mean, really just top level, historically good eulogy. His appearance on Tucker Carlson as well, very persuasive, very convincing. Um, but where he goes wrong, I think, and where I part from him, especially his retarded comments about Bitcoin, that he believes in fiat currency and that he's a bigger fan of fiat currency and doesn't really see the upside in Bitcoin and thinks it's some kind of a scam. I think all of that shows you that you're not dealing with someone who has an optimistic vision of the future. You're dealing with someone who is pessimistic and demoralized about the future and doesn't see any path out of it. Or maybe he does. I can't, I can't mind read what he thinks. He's got a very high IQ, and that prevents, I think, mind reading in particular. It's hard to guess. But indeed, having this optimistic vision of the future and being in a tribe, exactly as we heard here from Naval, is an important thing, right? Because being in this tribe and having these optimistic ideas lets you traverse all of these psychological demoralization campaigns. It helps you traverse this time of incredible change. And that's why you've got people like Kathy Wood today. Speaking of tribes, right, there's the Bitcoin Investor Week happening right now in New York City. All kinds of Bitcoiners descending, arriving in New York City, having all this content. Pompliano's behind a lot of it. So to be determined the outcomes and usefulness of all of this. But he can do a pretty good job at it. So here we see, even with this chaos and with everyone worried about what AI is going to do, right? Here you've got Bitcoiners coming in and saying, look, this is obviously the hedge. Bitcoiners, of course, supporting each other through this difficult time. And coming up with insights, right? With Lightning, for example, you've got BitPain here mentioning the Bitcoin Lightning Network with theoretically infinite transaction capacity is the only network with the scalability to service AI agents. And indeed, blockchain architecture would be overwhelmed with the need to commit trillions of microtransactions to the chain. And if you didn't see yesterday, of course, we saw the Lightning adding AI agents. I thought I had that story here, but I'll up quickly just to show you AI. You've got that story that broke yesterday. Let me see where it is. There we go. AI agents can now pay Bitcoin over the Lightning Network. So again, you're seeing Bitcoiners adapt to the future. You're seeing folks realize how we can be successful in this environment. And go back to my frameworks here, and within these frameworks, of course, the ability of Bitcoiners within this tribe, the decentralized nature versus the centralized communications angle, this stuff becomes really important, because especially the laughter, because one of the ways that we've been so successful, and this goes back especially to the 2016 moment in time. Now, go back to 2016, right? Stefan Molyneux's Trump doesn't have the murderer's row of persuaders next to him back in 2016. No one really believes in any of it, right? He's got Cernovich, he's got Styx Hexenhammer, he's got Scott Adams, he's got, just a handful of ragtag folks out there. Nothing like he ended up getting in the 2024 campaign. But the main advantage that Trump had was all of these people were speaking and resonating at a frequency that the sludge people just couldn't understand. So go back to the tribal thing. One of the ways that Trump was able to win in 2016 is that it was such a surprise, that it wasn't detected, that the immune response of the legacy sludge system didn't understand it had been infected, didn't understand that it had captured this virus of people that were able to communicate undetected. The reason they were able to communicate in an undetected manner was because the resonance, the frequency of what they were talking about just went above the mental capacities and the psychological capacities and the intellectual capacities of most of these people that would have cheated harder to stop Trump and won and made sure Hillary was installed in 2016. So, and all of these guys, of course, were also Bitcoiners, because a lot of this did come out of the Pepe, 4chan, all of that stuff that was happening back then was so vital. And that's why we can see here this guy, Commissar Joe, writing, I remember. And this was a note written in 2022. And here you get a sense of exactly why we were able to keep the laughter flowing, and how Bitcoiners in 2016, MAGA people in 2016, and folks right to this day were able to communicate and coordinate in such a way in a tribe, right? In a tribe. This was very tribal, how they're able to do this and really put a dent in the universe. So this is what the fella says. He says, want to know something hilarious? They have no idea what to do with you autistic fucks. Literal master's degree holding feds have debates, PowerPoints, talks, de-escalation training, and containment of negative thought exercises to de-radicalize agents that lurk here and elsewhere. I've been to the briefs. It's actually the reason I quit. They're so unbelievably incompetent and retarded that actionable counter meme plans were drawn up and wargamed. I shit you not, middle-aged men were thinking of ways to make Pepe the Frog gay so Nazis wouldn't want to use it anymore. They have nothing. Outside of blatant censorship, they have lost. They can't do anything about you all. The only semi-smart thing they did was start accusing everyone of being a Fed so they could trip up online movements from turning into actual demonstrations. That's it. That's all they've come up with in years of lurking. To recap, they can't meme. They hire tranny therapists to help their poor radicalized lurking shit posters. They wanted to turn Pepe gay. They literally have no idea how to stop you autismos from memeing them into defeat. It's hilarious. Remember, every shit post that makes them look like idiots actually infuriates them. Never stop. And it's this that has helped us win this psychological battle. And that's what's got us poised to be able to change the world. Because while Bitcoiners can speak in memetics, while they can function economically, while they're reprogramming people's incentives, while they've infected, you've got the political infection, but then, of course, the 2024 version brought Bitcoin straight into Wall Street and infected them as well. So now already we're reprogramming the subconscious of Wall Streeters. We're reprogramming the incentive structures of Wall Streeters. As Ben McKenzie says, it will take down the system. He's completely right, but he's just not communicating it in a way that will make any difference because he's stuck in these sludge person frameworks. And you're seeing it more and more, the limitations of this. And CJ under Sneege here puts it perfectly. So he says, it's hard to describe. And this is the opposite, right? So this is what centralized fiat or rhetorical type persuasion looks like versus Bitcoin decentralized memetics. And you can just see that it's literally Trump discombobulator space weapon people versus Cuban guards. It's the same framework, except it's here in persuasion and psychology. And here he says, it's hard to describe just how much the Western metropolitan liberal population live in an entirely rhetorical world. Everything they believe is derived from the words and consensus that builds around them. It is a completely different form of reality. When they say words are violence, they believe it. When they say something real is merely a social construct, they believe it. When they use communication tools to address negative externalities, they believe will work. But that's why we're winning. So go back. That's, exactly what I say in these frameworks here. These folks stuck on the centralized model of broadcast. It can only broadcast words. It is not really an efficient system of broadcasting memes. Decentralized architecture can broadcast the memes. Bitcoin meetup culture can propagate the memes. Bitcoiners meeting in a P2P manner and communicating that way can create the actual change the world is looking to see. And one of the things it's done is it's helped us reinterpret our history, especially from the moment it was centralized. So we realized that these demoralization campaigns, like the Yuri guy, the British guy, or the Soviet guy was saying, the demoralization, that video looked like it was taken in the 90s, and he said it was 35 years old, that the demoralization campaign had already been going on. So that puts it back somewhere into the 1960s. And so we here, right, when we started this show back in 2022, and we predicted that the political fault lines in America would shift from right and left, the fake prison of right and left, into something more like communism versus populism, that the shifting fault lines would turn more and more into people understanding that we don't live in anything like a democracy, that something happened along the way that changed our entire trajectory. And at that time, I said the reason why we see this change happening is folks like RFK were coming into Bitcoin, were coming into politics, and they weren't going to fit into the typical mold. Just like Trump, they weren't going to fit into the typical Republican Democrat mold. And that's how I was able to predict in 2022. I mean, you can go back and check out the tape. There's video of this show and us sitting together in November 2022 where I say RFK is going to join with Trump. I already said not vice president. He's going to have an active role in the administration. He's going to be doing executive branch stuff, not fake, weak vice president stuff. And I like vice president, but it is, of course, for the, in the case of what we've got with J.D. Vance, it's mostly to position himself to be a successor to Trump. So he's got a particular way of doing the vice president job. RFK, obviously, already probably too old to be a successor to Trump. He's in his 70s as it is, or at least about to be in his 70s. So it's important to remember that this right and left schism that is affecting people's minds is already broken in many parts of America, in many parts of these tribes that we were talking about. And now we're finally at the point where we're able to readdress the system that Ben McKenzie's trying to keep coherent and together, right? The psychological and economic system that he's trying to keep coherent and together. But the truth of it is, and I think Bitcoiners have known this for a long time, we haven't had anything like the civilian control of the issuance of debt. We've had some unseen force. And that's really what I was getting at in 2022 when I started talking about Kenny, because inevitably things do go back to what happened in 1963. And yesterday, you had this great Ron Paul interview. Ron Paul was on, I forget what podcast he was on yesterday. I think it might have been, well, anyway, here's Ron Paul, and I'm going to probably have to, let me see if I've got, let me know if the audio comes through. Let me see if it's let me know if the audio came through on that, because I'll change it. Let's see. Well, I'll just restart it. I don't need to go through all this stuff, and this will guarantee it's happening and that you can hear it.
There's been a coup. We don't have any resemblance to a government that believes in a republic. We don't have honest money. We don't have integrity. We don't even have people in Washington that even pretends, that you're supposed to tell the truth. But I do believe there has been a coup and it's been taken over. And if I want to just put the date in my mind, and anybody could pick probably any date in the last 100 years. But I have picked November 22nd, 1963.
What happened on that day?
That was the day Kennedy was murdered by our government.
Wow.
By the CIA.
And now you can just say this because it's true. Right? Already, it's been 4 years since I said it out loud, since I walked everyone through this, right? I remember the episode. A lot of you were here. I read out the lyrics from Bob Dylan's song, A Foul, what was it called again? A Foul Murder, A Murder Most Foul. And remember, Bob Dylan released that song the day of the lockdowns in New York City, or in America, when the lockdowns began in New York, the first real lockdown day, he put the song out. So as many people noticed, RFK in particular. Remember, RFK got engaged again in civic life because he noticed the security, the deep state apparatus moving to the forefront on an issue of public health that he understood intimately. And so that's what mobilized him to write the book about Fauci and expose this deep state action, because it went back to what happened to his own father and his own uncle. And so these campaigns, these manipulation campaigns, drew out people like RFK. And now, of course, RFK, everything. He's a total one. I promise you, he's a 100% Bitcoiner. He doesn't have fiat sludge tokens anymore. He's all in. All in. He took all of his money, all the Monsanto money, and he bought Bitcoin. I know for a fact and personally that that's the case. So I've been fortunate enough to meet him and talk with him on a number of occasions. And I know a lot of the people around him. Going back to this tribal attitude, you know what a big deal it was when Biden wouldn't give him security clearance. And, the first thing you think of when a Kennedy's running for president is, oh, that's dangerous, right? That's what you think of, like the kind of courage it would require a Kennedy to run in politics after the track record of assassinations is real, right? You don't just get to run. And I've said for a long time, the hardest part for us to understand about the Kennedy assassinations is that everybody knew. Everyone knew what happened. Everyone knew the driver turned around and shot him in the face. And there was no Zapruder film, fake Zapruder film. Nothing like that happened. And so the hardest part was that there were these tribes that kept these secrets amongst themselves in their P2P networks. And this illusion of reality was able to coexist with the awareness that all these people could say it out loud, just like you saw in the Epstein emails, when they can just talk very blatantly about all this crazy shit, not worried that they're going to get caught, not worried that it's an email, because they knew they controlled the rendering of reality and that they could stop any one of these stories from manifesting. That's why the Kennedys weren't able to just come out and say what happened, right? Even though they knew. There's no way that Jackie Onassis did not know that her own government killed her husband. There's no way. And she had to live with that for the rest of her life because of fear and danger and all these other things. So from there, we understand that the American system hasn't been the American system since at least that time, since at least civilian control of the military was taken away. It wasn't much longer before full civilian executive branch control over public debt was taken away, and we entered a full fiat system. That's why, I always push back against these Christians who say, oh, the mark of the beast is coming. We're in the end times. It's eschatological. You're hearing people all over the internet say that the past couple of days. I hate to break it to you folks, but you were already left behind. We've been living in the mark of the beast system for at least 100 years, at least since the social security number system was created in the first place and collateralized birth certificates went to fund public debt and war. You have been living in the end times. Sorry, you didn't make it. It didn't happen. We're already there. It's not tomorrow. It's not next week. It's now. It's been around for a long time. The mark of the beast and the social security number system has already prevented you from participating in the economy. And that's what makes the whole tribal Bitcoin movement so important, is because it's already admitting that we live in a fallen system. It's not trying to fix the system. It's not trying to do what Ben McKenzie and his demoralization campaign say, don't want to rock, don't want it, it could take the whole system down. You're fucking right, it can take the whole system down. Of course it can. What are we trying to preserve here? An illusion that we have democratically elected leaders? We don't. That's not what happened. Trump is the first one to help restore that. That's why, of course, the system has been so nasty against him, because we are getting back a real commander-in-chief, a real American system propagator, someone who is actually out there fulfilling the American system and using Bitcoin to do it. And it's exactly why you need sound money, and exactly why you need to have civilian control of both the military and the issuance of public debt in relation to the type of money you have and the stuff that's going on. Because look, here's just a sign, right? Here's another example of exactly how bad things are. You got this guy here. we got one of these videos yesterday where you see the uniparty and the fake prison of two ideas in all of its glory and all of its openness. This is not even hiding, right? So I think I have to stop sharing again, all this stuff, and then I got to share again so you can hear the audio. I'm going to start, I think I'm going to start posting these like I did where I had them all in one column because I like them all in order. I haven't been doing that, and I think it prevents me from being able to.
Why wasn't there more security?
Yeah, there was like
There were 30 guards out back there.
It was ridiculous. It was all staged.
You think it was DC, the mayor influenced?
I think she was just a public.
Yeah.
I think it was done for high.
How does that?
Hell, Mitch McConnell was part of it.
I was going to
He was
say.
the one that was part of the decision making how much security to have on stage. I think they wanted to have a mess.
I know they wanted to. There's no other.
But there you go. Just more and more people realizing January 6th was a complete and total scam. And now go back to 2022 and you'll see that, you know, this tribalness, people getting together, coming together, having these conversations, using this higher frequency of communication, using the medics, using Bitcoin culture, using the P2P nature of our system has changed and of course, you know, the instant, you know, the moment when Elon Musk bought Twitter, this all coincided with 2022, of course, really shows you, right, exactly what system we were working on, that you really were living in a fake prison of Republican and Democrat. Back then, when you couldn't talk openly about Trump, I used to always say, no one will ever prevent me from loving Trump because of what he did to the Republican Party. And I'll always appreciate that he destroyed one part of the fake prison of two ideas, which allowed all of the containment of the Republican Party to fall apart and allowed all these free radicals to start entering the system and change the configuration of it. And now it's just funny because when you look back on how much stuff has changed since that time, you really get a sense, you know, kind of like how entropy sets into any system, like fashion or humor. You know how dumb old fashioned can look, you know, hairstyles from the 80s or whatever, right? You can see that with the passage of time, certain things become more ridiculous. And just like the Zapruder film looks ridiculous now, right? When you see the driver just driving and the tree missing and all the special effects, the shitty special effects injected into the movie, just like special effects in general come across as shitty from a bygone era because your eye has been trained, right? Like, you know, when you go back, Jurassic Park still looks great, the 1993 Jurassic Park, but you can tell it's old CGI. It's nothing like what they can do now. I'll admit a lot of special effects have gotten much, much worse. But just in the news world, right? Just in the world of news, look at how funny things are. I'm going to play a hilarious video, and you're going to see exactly how much we've gained on the sludge people in the past 4 years and exactly how fucked they really are. They really are when you add up the ability for us to communicate, the incentivizations that we've been changing, the subtle reprogramming subconsciously of the American mind that's been going on these last 4 years, the new realizations that Americans are coming up with and ways of understanding the world. And you compare it, just look at how trashy and hilarious this is. Look at how hilarious this is. This is The View commenting on the day Trump came back to announce his campaign in 2022. Around the same time, I'm telling you about all of this stuff with RFK and Kennedy. This is the same era. These are the same weeks, right? SBF has crashed, the Bankman was fried, and these were the types of things we were talking about 4 years ago.
Remember back in the happier times for MAGA when Trump triumphantly descended down the escalator to announce he would make America great again? And remember how he'd have planes flying and crowds going wild at his rallies? Well, that was then. This is now. Okay? Watch.
Fellow citizens, America's comeback starts right now. In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. We will be attacked. We will be slandered. We will be persecuted just as I have been. But we will not be intimidated. We will persevere. And we, in the end, will win. Our country will win. We will win.
He looked like he was about to fall asleep, didn't he? It's like, we will win. We will win. Good thing my pillow guy was there to help him with his head.
He's channeling low-energy Jeb.
Yes, and he's kind of like a defeated Mussolini sort of guy, you know?
Yeah.
And by the way, the pillow guy was one of the bigger names in attendance. There were no GOP bigwigs there. The only one who was there was Madison Cawthorn, who's not even in office anymore.
Yes.
He showed up. It was so sad. My heart breaks for poor Donald.
How about Ivanka not showing up?
Oh, Ivanka.
Yeah. Because that's his girl right there. That's his favorite.
Yeah, he loves his girl.
She was like, no thanks. I'm a private citizen now. I want to spend time with my family.
Jared was in the audience but didn't get up and talk or anything. And Matt Gaetz, remember him? Is he still in office? Isn't he under indictment
He's
yet?
under an investigation.
So it's like looking at the bad fashion or bad special effects of a bygone era. These are rock bottom stupid people who didn't predict anything. I mean, they're just completely wrong. Now, the things I was saying 4 years ago looked like fantasy, like science fiction. But who was more right? It's not even close. It's not even close. We're living in this reality, not whatever the fuck they're talking about. Now, I can even remember what I said during that show. I said it does look like Trump was low energy during that. My prediction was it looked like women trouble. It looked like he didn't have Melania or his daughter beside him because they thought it was too dangerous. So what I saw was a brave, lonely soldier going to war. I didn't see a weak man. I saw a guy who was even going against the women in his life. That just looked like women trouble. It just looked like what happens when your woman says, I'm not exactly with you on this because it looks very dangerous. And you're up against the sludge people of all sludge people. You're up against what ended up happening in Butler. You're up against what happened to Kennedy. And so I understood why the women said that. I totally got it. But as a man, if the women in your life don't think you can handle the fight, it is no matter what, even if you're Trump, your ego takes a hit and you're not quite as confident without the sort of medieval blessings of fair maidens and dames and ladies. That's just the reality of the heroic archetype. You're doing it for the women, really. And so subconsciously, so if you're not getting their approval, that was my theory. I'm not sure I'm right. Just my theory. And I think I'm right. You know, Trump proved those ladies wrong in the end. And I think that's the ultimate victory when you're able to do that, when you're able to change their minds on this and eventually get the support. I haven't seen that Melania movie. But I suspect that Melania movie shows that by the end, you know, even his wife was like, holy shit, this guy is even more capable than I thought. And that would be coming from his own wife. You know, that would be an incredible win for anyone's ego. And, you know, as Trump has even said that him winning the second time was about ego, and that now because he was able to do it, his ego is forever just, you know, at that level. So you can get a sense of that fashion, and you get a sense now of the weakness of this persuasion. You get a sense of it, and how limited it is. And I've got an even better example of that entropy and limitation of brainwashing and propaganda. And it comes from good old Canada, right? So here, and this is some great takes, right? So here you get the pathetic, stupid, retarded governor. We call them premiers of Ontario. This is one of the most rock bottom, stupid Canadians. You know, I voted for this scumbag when he tried to run for mayor of Montreal after his hero brother died, Rob Ford, who was a proto-Trump. This is one of the most disappointing politicians ever. I don't really care. I mean, I'm all for Canada having way more provincial sovereignty and likely ending the federal arrangement between the provinces, as you all know. But this guy here really should have been a Trump guy. He says he's going to run for prime minister after this. Sorry to break it to you, you fucking loser. No one cares. And now just have a look at, forget about what he's going to say. I'm going to play the video. But just look at the persuasion weakness and compare it to what we saw from Trump and what Trump is capable of now, and what the tribalness of MAGA and Bitcoiners and populism has brought, and look at what the old vestiges of the fake prison of two ideas really brings you. The old fake prison of right and left, the maximum extent that it can get. This is what the uniparty and all of that stuff looks like, and just watch.
As we head into Family Day long weekend, I want to remind everyone that from February 14th to 16th, right here in Ontario, families can enjoy free fishing this weekend with no license required.
No license.
It's a great opportunity.
A great opportunity. And here I watch these old official Canadian government videos, and I swear they remind me of the old Soviet era propaganda videos. It's all so contrived and fake, an elaborate and performative charade to provide the illusion of participatory governance in debt-ridden wage slaves. Kurt Yarvin says it's exactly the same thing, better resolution. But watching any political content from today in 2046 will produce the same vibe of unreality that we get today from watching old Obama or Bush. What's remarkable is that Canada is so far gone that you can feel it in the present. And that's what I mean about this distance. You can see it, go back to acting, like I was mentioning earlier with acting. Marlon Brando did that to actors, right? Marlon Brando invigorated the acting world with Russian acting skills, the Stanislavski method. Brought to America by Lee Strasberg, and harnessed and cultivated by Marlon Brando. All acting looks retarded from before Marlon Brando. All of it. They all look stupid. All the best look terrible. And so Trump has done that now to politics. That's why from day one with Trump, I said the best thing he does, and that's why I still will always love candidate Trump from 2015 and early 2016 before he got the Republican nomination. And he had to try to center himself a little more because Republican candidate Trump never used teleprompter. And that was his greatest insult. Already then he saw it. His greatest insult, his greatest nickname was calling Obama teleprompter guy. He wouldn't even say his name. When Trump is able to collapse these nicknames down to the shortest form, like he didn't even remember what he was able to do with Hillary Clinton. In the end, he could just say old crooked. He didn't have to say crooked Hillary. He could just say old crooked, and you knew exactly who he meant. Like that's how good he is, right? He got it down, condensed just as much for Obama, where you just call him, we don't want teleprompter guy, right? No, we don't want teleprompter guy. So you can see that Trump has done this to persuasion. He's done this to politics, just like Bitcoin has done this to money, right? Everything from this old system looks so stupid and out of style. This is basically a fiat shill here with this fucking stupid, look at his dumb smile. Hey guys, I'm the governor of a retarded state in Canada. Believe me. So as Trump is changing the world in this way, as you've got this guy selling you on free fishing license, let me just tell you something, by the way, guys. Ontario is bigger than Alaska, okay? And all 12, 13 million people who live in, maybe it's 15 now, I haven't paid attention. However many million people there are in Ontario, they're all in southern Ontario. They're all there. They're all between Detroit and Toronto. The rest of it up north by the Great Lakes, he's telling you don't need a license. Let me tell you right now, you don't need a fucking license. There's no one there. There's thousands of lakes. There's no one who's ever going to catch you or say anything. And every Indian up there fishes without a license anyway. Okay. You don't need to get a fucking license this weekend. You can do it any weekend. You can do what you want. It's unlimited land. It's unlimited. So if you want to go out and ask for permission, I grew up, they didn't have this stuff when I was a kid. I went fishing all the time in the lakes where I'm from. I never got a fucking license. I just went and fished. What are you talking about? This weekend? Wow, thank you for my free fishing license for the weekend. So compare what he's offering people and the scale that these fucking losers are operating at. and the limitations of their persuasion, and look at what this reinvigorated American system is offering compared to that. Look at what the reinvigorated civilian control of the military actually looks like, right? This is what it actually looks like. It looks like this deal that the Russians were talking about yesterday, which goes to my prediction, which I will say is one of the things you're going to hear to know that I'm right about everything in 2026. It's that you will see a physical bridge announced, a physical bridge announced between Alaska and Siberia. You're going to get an actual physical connection between Russia and the United States, because this is what Kennedy was trying to do before they killed him. This is what's been going on with this stupid sludge British system of divide and conquer, of fake prisons of two ideas, the fake Canadian Uniparty, the fake American Uniparty, the fake British system, the fake fights of Israel and Palestine, the fake Nick Fuentes, Israel is running us type fights. All of that fake shit that's been going on really has been designed to prevent one thing from happening. One thing has been at the source of all of this. It started with French and American connections between France. If France copies America during the revolution, that's not going to work. So they had to make up the fake Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake story, right? Complete bullshit. And then from there, of course, the big danger, as everyone in England understood, everyone in the UK understood, everyone in this banking insidious system understood, that if America and Russia form a partnership, it's what allowed America to win the Civil War induced by these blood-sucking fucking vampires from the beginning. And you know, the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter is a great book for that reason, where it shows that actual vampires, actual literal vampires, the Seth Graham Smith book, the movie not so good, the book excellent, you know, had this idea of dividing America literally to be able to have the blood supply and human flesh that they needed from this system. So more accurate, the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, more accurate, I think, than people would like to admit. And so the whole point of that was that the UK understood it needed to divide America. It needed to do it. And ever since then, you've had this system that has been compelled and incentivized from keeping the last thing it wants to see happen, the United States and Russia forming a partnership. Because if that happens, you completely break this smokescreen, disgusting fiat system we've been involved in for all these years. So the physical bridge is coming. Here's what we know from the Russians. The Kremlin has set out proposals for a wide-ranging economic partnership with the Trump administration, including Russia's return to the dollar settlement system. The proposal details 7 points where Russian and U.S. economic interests could converge, including joint investment in natural gas and critical raw materials. That's why the bridge is going to get built. They're going to allow the Russians to come in a reversal of how colonialism has worked until now, the British style of colonialism, which is extraction. It's going to be a plus system. They're going to allow the Russians to come into Alaska and extract resources and bring their expertise, because we have too much work. We are already all in Greenland. We're going to be all over Canada. We don't have time to get all of it, and the Russians can help, and they know how to do this, and that's why it's going to happen. The plan would be a reversal of Kremlin policy and would hand Trump administration a major victory in weakening the relationship between Moscow and Beijing. Long-term aviation contracts, joint oil and LNG ventures, including offshore and hard-to-recover reserves. That's why it's going to happen, which take into account previous U.S. investments and would allow American firms to recover past losses. Preferential conditions for U.S. companies to return to the Russian consumer market. Cooperation on nuclear energy, including for AI ventures. Russia's return to the dollar settlement system, including possibly for Russian energy transactions. Cooperation on raw materials such as lithium, copper, nickel, and platinum. Working together to push fossil fuels as an alternative to climate-friendly ideology and low-emission solutions that favor China and Europe. So indeed, absolutely massive if true. This is a great offer and sets the stage for more. It will kneecap the deep state, solidify American dominance, and have a century-long effect. I wish this could have been offered in 92, but neither side was ready. Indeed, the Kremlin has proposed a wide-ranging economic partnership, and that is what the future is going to look like, right? It's not going to look like this. Just look at how the other side is falling apart. Look at the opportunity from that, right? And now measure the persuasion of the fiat sludge people, measure the Doug Fords, the fake deep state view type shit about January 6th and Trump is not popular. Look at all that weakness. And now look at what they're offering, right? They're offering this. They're offering unrealized capital gains in Holland. This is the same country that yesterday spent all day crying about that super hot speed skater who's engaged to Jake Paul flying private home. They're so offended that she went on his private airplane to fly home, right? So that's not going to work. She's going to go into the Ava Vlardingerbroek world now, and that'll be the end of another person who is not going to be bullied by the Dutch. Imagine being bullied by the Dutch. I remember the Dutch tried to bully me a couple years ago at Bitcoin Magazine because we co-produce an event with them called Bitcoin Amsterdam. And you should have heard them cry when I booked Ava Vlardingerbroek. You should have heard them, oh, she's a white nationalist. No, no, no. And of course, this is before Trump has made his comeback. So this is 2023, just a year after I was talking about all of this stuff. So now just look at what's happened since then, right? Ava Vlardingerbroek is a mom. She's become more powerful than ever in terms of her reach. She's become a Bitcoiner. And this is what the Dutch state has offered up. The first country to pass unrealized capital gains of 36%. And just like I said, in the future, just look at fashion, right? Here's Gadsad saying exactly what I'm saying. Just look at the persuasion. Look at what it took for the persuasion to look so retarded. Look at what it took for the persuasion of the Canadian governor, the Canadian premier. Look how stupid that looks now and how dumb it's going to look in the future, how off it all looks, and just how pathetic, like bad fashion, how it's just so no one gets aligned with it, right? No one wants to be that. And here Gadsad saying the exact same thing. In the future, historians will wonder how people tolerated the parasitic taxation systems crushing us around the world. This fucking loser in his suit and his stupid whiteboard, right? Sorry, bro, how much Bitcoin do you have? No one really cares about what you have to say about your unrealized capital gains tax. All the Dutch people are already gone. And in America, we have a return to the American system. We've got Bessent here saying exactly that. President Trump has been clear that Americans have a right to know where their tax dollars are not being diverted to fund acts of global terror or to fund luxury cars for fraudsters. At Treasury, we follow the money. We did it with the mafia. We have done it with the cartels, and we're doing it with the Somali fraudsters. We're going to offer whistleblower payments to anyone who wants to tell us who, what, when, and where. So we've got the bounties now. We've got Bessent taking control of the Treasury. We have executive branch authority there again. As I told you, audits are going to be the biggest story in 2026. They're brewing under the surface. We're going to find out more and more just how corrupted the system was. And every week, because of this, just like last summer, remember when Trump spent last summer just pumping out good news, and the fake news is so used to summer vacations and they couldn't adjust. And Trump has already realized that his speed of action is his number one ability against the fake news because they just can't adapt quick enough. Trump is setting himself up here for 6 months. What are we? We're in February. The midterms are in November. I think you're going to have 9 months. You're going to have 9 months of news every week about another audit. So this is Trump just creating a recurring revenue stream of good news. He's just created a flywheel that every week, no matter what's in the news, he's going to push these stories. They're going to just enter the cycle. We're going to understand more about fraud in California and here and there. And they're modeling the behavior and now incentivizing Americans to get involved. There's nothing that is going to stop this train. Nothing is going to stop what is coming. For these reasons, you have actual civilian executive branch control again, and it's a big, big difference. And it's again why Trump's speed of action is just too much. Not even Congress can keep up. You can see the Epstein files again. They've had several days to go through everything. And despite that, Nick Sortor writes here, right? Despite a bunch of them saying, you're not going to believe who's in there. single one of them have dropped any details. Instead, they recessed and flew home tonight. And so you can tell right there just how pathetic and stupid this story is, because it was always a Democrat story. Here's another one where they're going to try and run fake news. The Wall Street Journal, another Epstein name comes to light. Another Obama administration person comes to light. Just think about, wouldn't we love to see Obama and Michelle try to run in 2028 again? Wouldn't that be the funniest outcome? I think it might happen. I used to say, no way is Michelle ever going to run. But now that they're losing so hard, now that Obama, his, if it's like a video game, his like health power score is like on red and at bottom. He has nothing. He cannot fill a tiny high school theater anymore. No one gives a shit about this guy. And it's going to be tons of this shit, right? It's going to be hot dogs and everything from now on for Obama. And here, the Wall Street Journal even can't help. Goldman's top lawyer, they say, Goldman's top lawyer, Catherine Rumler, will step down after Jeffrey Epstein files show she remained close to him through his 2019 arrest. Alex Brusewitz here saying, hi, Wall Street Journal. Here's a better headline for you. Obama's close friend and former White House counsel, Catherine Rumler, is out at Goldman Sachs after her deep connection to Epstein was exposed. No wonder Biden and Kamala didn't make an effort to release these files when they were in power. It's going to continue like this for them. And it's even happening back at the English system as well, where all this trouble comes from. The UK Keir Starmer government still completely paralyzed after the Epstein files. Even the fake news economist is after him. A prime minister who clings to power by handing out treats is not running a government, but an ice cream van, according to The Economist. And here you see Kirill Dmitriev, again, Russians and Americans coming together, saying when The Economist says you're not running a government, but an ice cream van, it's already over. Et tu, Brute, everyone against Starmer as he unites us all, even the liberal economist. You're seeing the real fallout of the Epstein files and the real collateral that Trump has been able to create, the real asset he's been able to create using his kayfabe persuasion, using his exceptional once-in-a-lifetime skills to alter the conversation and reprogram the American mind. Here's more on Keir Starmer. He's lost his permanent chief of staff, director of communications, and cabinet secretary. Starmer has been standing like this for the last 3 days, waiting for someone to tell him what to do. And it's not going to get better, of course, because the rot goes so deep. Jimmy Savile, of course, look like, oh, you mean that guy was a pedal biker? Oh, I didn't know. How surprising. Look at this face of evil. It's not just pattern recognition and bias. This guy is a creep. If I saw this guy anywhere near my children, I would take a baseball bat to his face. I mean, how is that not obvious? Look at him. 450 children. Keir Starmer, the director of public prosecutions, declined to prosecute. The case was later destroyed, and the BBC covered it up. That's why we got the big Besant now, right? The big Besant cock is going to change all of this stuff, and that's what's going on. And it looks like the UK has indeed reached a real cascade preference, right? A cascade preference. Manchester United part owner has told Ed Conway this was yesterday, and it's continuing today. Some people say this was a real moment in the history of the UK. I can admit I don't follow the UK enough or care enough. But apparently all the people that are on the front lines in UK say something actually did click yesterday. Something actually did change. Fugitive Caesar says, seventh richest man in Britain speaking out in favor of total remigration, ending welfare, and Rupert Lowe as prime minister. Big deal. Preference cascade incoming. And indeed, the soccer hooligans and everyone into it. And, but who's left? All the rich people are already gone. So you can see that the incentives matter, the psychological engine matters, winning the economic debate matters more than the rhetorical debate. The UK lost 9,500 millionaires this year. At what point do you stop blaming the rich for leaving and start blaming the country for pushing them out? And that is what is going on. Big changes coming, and it gets better. It's happening with Dirty Sanchez as well, right? Holy crap, illegal immigrants from all over Europe arriving at the consulates of Barcelona and the embassies falsifying receipts to prove that they have lived in Spain and meet the requirements. They're going to try and spike the vote in Spain. But I would be very careful because I've spent time in Barcelona and I know the Barcelonans to be a lot like my fellow Quebecers. And once you radicalize those people, watch out, because this is a world of tribes. The Catalan people, just like the Quebecois, have that French tribal aspect to them. Catalan, of course, a lot more like French, if you were unaware. I can't speak Catalan, but I understand a lot more words in Catalan than I would in Spanish, just because it is a little more proximate to French. And of course, I'm from Latin America, being a English Quebecer. And I can tell you right now that the Catalan, like the Quebecois, when forced with these kinds of ethnic tribal risks, are actually radical. So they can be socialist all you want, but never think of a Quebec socialist as something other than a MAGA type nationalist, because they are. Even if they're left wing, they are usually MAGA style nationalists. And I still believe that if the separatist movement in Quebec were to embrace nationalism more than some linguistic preference and some gay Franco-socialist type thing, they would win the referendum tomorrow easily. Because the Canadian identity is so stupid, but it's happening all over, right? Europe finally getting it. It's not just what's going on over in Spain and France and England. Even Germany's Merz starting to understand, indeed, that we're entering a world of action. The rhetorical world doesn't matter anymore. The regulator world doesn't matter anymore. The actual civilian control of the economy, the civilian control of the military, the civilian control of public debt, and the bureaucracy all becoming more and more focused, more and more real, more and more necessary. Him here admitting, indeed, that they've got to go crazy on energy. They've got to more or less align with the MAGA system and the Bitcoin system as well, which is energy propagation, and saying here the following: I propose to implement a fundamental principle in most permitting processes. Any project that is not treated within a few weeks or months will be regarded as approved automatically. So changes indeed coming in Germany. And those changes can be seen in America already, where we're ahead of that. Prof. St. Onge here talking about the really important aspect and thing that I've been talking about on the show for a while, which is Trump's, what he calls, beautiful solution about the use of energy in both Bitcoin mines and AI data centers, saying force AI companies to build their own power. That's exactly what I've been saying is happening. That's exactly what's going to happen with the American-style colonialism, reinvigorating the North and the Arctic and all of these places. Meanwhile, Elon applies to launch 1 million satellites to put AI data centers in space. That's exactly what's going to happen. We had Prof. St. Onge at that same event in Amsterdam in 2023. So let's hear from him real quick, because he makes good points.
AI is eating up the electricity, scooping up what survives the gauntlet of the climate change jihad. Will your toaster have to compete with city-sized data centers, powering everything from cancer cures to dancing cats? A new report from the Department of Energy projects AI data center electricity use will double to 945 terawatt hours by 2030, which is more electricity than the country of Japan. If nothing's done, this could send household electric bills soaring when so-called renewables have already done a number in states like California and New Jersey. Last year alone, electric bills spiked 16% in New Jersey. That's 5 times faster than inflation. Maine was closer to 30%. Californians now pay 31 cents per kilowatt, about 4 times what they pay in North Carolina. Trump has been trying to fight this with permits for fossil fuels while closing ridiculously expensive windmill projects. But all that is slamming into the tsunami of AI data centers. A single data center near New Orleans is projected to consume more energy than the city of New Orleans. Another in Wyoming will use twice the electricity of the entire state. So it's the solution, love it or hate it, AI is not going away. It has overwhelming applications in business, medical and R&D, and military, where China is hot on our heels, but it needs a lot more generation. So Trump took a big step in a recent order, forcing AI companies to build their own generation using an auction mechanism. Now this is clever because it increases power generation and protects households. And it contrasts with Democrats who want price ceilings on electricity that, like all price ceilings, will deliver shortages, also known as blackouts. California actually tried ceilings in the 2000s for internet data centers, leading to 38 days of blackouts, $50 billion of loss, and led to the bankruptcy of their main energy company, PG&E. In contrast, Trump CEO already has $15 billion in commitments to pay for new generation, all paid by AI companies. Elon Musk wants to go even further.
So as you can see, the incentives here are going to reprogram how we function. It's going to sideline more and more bureaucracy. And Trump is moving ahead with it here. You can see with his huge revocation of all these greenhouse gas rules, everything he did yesterday with Lee Zeldin, the largest deregulation in American history, really just about provoking this huge energy outflow, getting rid of this divisive zero-sum political system. Veronica, collagen scientist here, saying, so apparently Trump just scrapped the ruling that greenhouse gases are harmful and tied to climate change, which is also reportedly the largest deregulation in U.S. history. Based, repeat coated, and CO2 pilled. I vote let's increase carbon dioxide immediately. Peter's in control. Repeat, of course. This will have huge ramifications for, among other things, cheap cars to America. It looks like this deregulation will bring finally the 10,000 US trash token Toyota Hilux to America. It's going to bring all kinds of small cars back. It's going to change the incentives towards car building. Cars right now really just a fiat system of debt to get you to take a huge loan. That's why the cars are so big, because you pay over 20 years for a car and blah, blah, blah. But the point is here, changing the incentives, changing the system will have huge, huge, huge ramifications, and is really going to actually, weirdly, getting rid of environmental regulations and all these fake ones on CO2 is actually going to help us recalibrate and actually fix our environment. Because look at the trashy, disgusting stuff that's happening in America. Look at this. Can you believe the Potomac? And by the way, Chesapeake Bay is one of, I heard a story. I don't know if it's true. It's an anecdote. But I heard a story of a Japanese fisherman once, or sorry, Japanese cook, chef, who saw Chesapeake Bay and said, I could feed the whole world from Chesapeake Bay because of how fertile and how amazing Chesapeake Bay really is. I read a book about the history of America centered around Chesapeake Bay and how important Chesapeake Bay was for the whole mid-Atlantic American colonial effort, where we really saw the private, because America, of course, was founded off of two separate entities. You had the religious Puritans coming to Massachusetts, but you had the tobacco and rum and commercial folks landing in Virginia. And so the Chesapeake Bay part is where you really get the beginning of the economic model of the Americas. They didn't really do in the Mayflower people didn't really do the American economic model. They focused on the cultural aspects of, and really that is their legacy. Their legacy of the Puritans were the high-performing universities, the high-performing credentialist systems, the how do I explain how the religious use shame and a lot of these other heavily, like the Japanese or the Quebecois, heavily tribal cultural signifiers to fit in or be excluded. They really helped define a lot of American culture as it went forward. But the economic side comes from the Potomac. It comes from Chesapeake Bay. That's where the Wall Street, later Silicon Valley, later Spindletop Texan oil exploration, the marvelous side of American economic Wild West liberation really comes from the Virginia colonies, much more than it does the Massachusetts colonies. I'm a New Englander, so I'm not trying to say that the New England contribution to Heritage America is useless. It is not. It's an amazing contribution, but it's nothing like what we got from the economic side from Virginia, where they immediately realized they could grow tobacco and get all of Europe addicted to tobacco, and that really starts the consumer engine of America going. And because tobacco being one of the original consumer products, by the way, right? There's not a lot of consumer products before in the medieval business model. Every one of the citadels, every one of the feudal areas sort of took care of themselves, and the consumer model was a type of barter system for exactly what you needed. This was the first sin type consumption that existed, that you consumed for no other reason other than you got a bit of a high, and was purely consumer focused. So that model comes from the Virginia piece. And now, right, because we're so worried about global warming and the Puritan New England credentialist thing taking over American political systems, really totally obscured our ability to understand what's going on with the environment. So weirdly, Trump's deregulation is going to have probably a positive impact on the environment, because look at what we live in. This happened in Quebec too. We did this in Quebec a couple of years ago. Quebec that'll sit around and wag their finger at Alberta about you use fossil fuels, blah, blah, blah. You know what they did in Montreal a couple of years ago? They dumped all their shit and sewage into the St. Lawrence River, and now it's fine. The St. Lawrence River can take care of it. So I'm not really worried about the pollution. It's just gross for a week or two where you got all this shit in the water. So it turns out in Maryland, that's just what happened, right? The failure in a section of a 72-inch sewer pipe in Maryland has released close to 1 billion gallons of raw sewage into the Potomac River just inside the Beltway. It's now considered the largest spill of wastewater in U.S. history. Jacob Shell saying this disaster, release of a billion gallons of raw sewage into the Potomac, didn't make average planetary temperature change. So environmentalist media infrastructure is no longer able to make a spill at this scale into a national scandal that it would have 20 years ago. So you can see just how infested the American mind has become, but also how it's going to change. So that's the good news, right? And Oilfield Rando is saying the same thing. Not going to lie, I didn't think we'd be in the rivers of feces stage of rapid third worldization for a few more years, but here we are. We're 4 weeks into a sewage spill of hundreds of millions, now billions of gallons of raw sewage into Potomac, and DC issues its strongest warning. Residents and pets should not touch the Potomac River or engage in any Potomac recreation activities, including fishing. So you can go fishing, according to Doug Ford, without a license. Yay! But not on the Potomac. It is not Ontario. So that's the problem. And it's getting even worse. Look at the capital of their sludge person area. So DC filled with shit. New York City filled with shit. Right? It's not just DC. It's the Mom Donnie effect. Listen to this little lady describe what's going on in New York City. I'll stop sharing and reshare so you can hear her audio. This is what the libtards are doing to their places. This is what they're doing. And this is what's going to drive people out. It's the unrealized capital gains taxes. It's the shit in the rivers. It's the shit on the streets.
There's no way that people are actually visiting New York City, or people live in New York City and they enjoy living here. I have lived in New York City my entire life. I have never seen something like this, ever. I've lived here 26 years. I'm currently driving through Canal Street. It literally looks like I just entered a third world country. Streets are absolutely disgusting. There's garbage everywhere. There's like cops just swarming the streets for no reason because they're not even doing anything. It literally looks like a cesspool full of people that are like imported here and placed here to ruin the city. It's like so disgusting. And then on top of that, you guys went and voted for an absolute imbecile to run the city who is going to do nothing except make the city worse. So enjoy New York City. This is definitely not the Big Apple anymore. I don't know what this is. Honestly, there's no way that people are actually visiting New York City, or people.
So that's how you win World War III. You don't go to the shitty places. You don't go where there's shit everywhere. And really, when you think about going back to this, the tribes, and you can see why we're going to have Bitcoin citadels. You're going to see why this trend is going to continue, while these old institutions are going to continue to fail. They can't do their job, right? And they produced the conditions that are going to strip New York City, if nothing changes, of its position in the world. of DC, of its position in the world. But the reason is, and you can see it in a lot of ways. The reason is the sludge people, because they've infiltrated all these institutions, and the institutions are weaker and weaker. They're just not producing the quality of people that can win these fights, right? The fights are won by incentive structures and models and people wanting to do better. Now just watch this, right? This is on a university campus, and this is great. Just shows you how these institutions are falling and how they're not going to produce any people that are going to help them win this fight, and why you can easily predict that things are going to go our way, and that there's no reason to be demoralized, because this is a fight that we're determined to win, and this is what our opponents are up to. People like Ben McKenzie and people like this. Now, I'm gonna pause these videos when this girl here says retarded stuff, but I'm gonna have to pause it every second, because just listen to the vocabulary. Just listen to what universities are creating in terms of sludge people. This is too good to even be true. And I'll give you Mila Joy's preamble here. This chick makes Democrats look like fools on a daily basis. Listen to this.
Why would you say you support ICE?
Yeah, because they would get rid of these rapists and murderers that killed American women.
So are all of the immigrants that come into America rapists and killists?
No.
Are they killists? Are they rapists and killists? Killist. Oh man, he's a killist. Look at that guy. Killist.
Oh, okay, so
let's get rid of these ones? You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you support ICE removing them?
No. I support the condemnation, as you said.
The condemnation. The condemnation. She supports the condemnation, guys. She supports the condemnation of the killists. Okay? Get that straight. She supports the condemnation of the killists.
Said of a rapist, but there are white rapists, there are black rapists, there are
white immigrant rapists as well.
Okay, but again, there are rapists of different colors.
Why does the color matter when it comes to rape?
You just
I love how she's trying to sound like academic, but she's illiterate. It's too good. It's too good.
Made it about you just made it.
No,
about
you did.
Color. No, you did. You said ICE.
You brought up white rapists.
Okay, because you said that immigrants rape, right? So white.
I didn't say immigrants rape. I said these immigrants raped.
So those immigrants raped. What about white people that raped?
What about them?
Are there no condemnations for them?
Absolutely. We're condemning rape as a whole, but if these people wouldn't have been able to enter under Biden's open border policies, these women would still be alive today.
Right. So what about the people who are coming to America for a better life because they experienced similar situations where they came from?
Yeah, they can come here for a better life. I'm all for legal immigration.
Legal immigration. Okay, so what about, so our president here, his name is Trump. That's a pretty racist man.
How?
How?
Give me an example of his racism.
News.
Give me one example. Just give me one example.
Just watch the news, sweetheart. There are plenty of examples.
Watch the news, sweetheart. Give me one example that he's racist.
Okay, Trump has flat out, flat with the racism.
How?
Comments, concerns.
What comments? Name one comment that he said it was racist.
Okay.
Because if he's racist, I want to know, because I don't want to support a racist.
So you support Trump?
I do, yeah. Can you tell me why he's racist?
She supports Trump.
So we've been sitting here for nearly a minute now, and she has still yet to tell me one thing that Trump has said that's racist.
Okay, so if we're going to be quite honest, I couldn't give you a specific.
I know, you can't.
Oh, no, I'm not done speaking. I couldn't give you a specific because I don't pay attention to idiocy. And
okay.
That's idiocy.
So if you're going to...
She doesn't pay attention to idiocy. Oh no, what are we going to do? She doesn't pay attention to idiocy. She's worried about the killists and the condemnation.
Call someone racist, I think you should be able to prove it.
Watch the news.
Pull up a clip where he's racist. Go ahead.
Oh, great. I'm so glad you asked.
It must not have been racist enough to remember, because you have to look it up. How do you guys feel about ICE?
Oh, all of these people are...
Thumbs up for ICE, thumbs down.
People that are against ICE.
I'm asking people. What's wrong with asking people their opinion?
I didn't say anything.
Did you find the racist clip yet?
Wrong with that. I just said that there were people. Majority of them here are against ICE.
How do you know that?
Because I know them.
Okay. Well, he supports ICE.
You support ICE? Which one? You? You support ICE? Oh, okay. I didn't think so.
What does ICE stand for?
Babe.
So you don't support something that you don't even know what it stands for?
Oh, I didn't respond for a reason.
Can you tell me what it stands for?
No, we're gonna go back to the Trump racism.
Right, okay.
Too good. So it's a zero, right? No persuasion, no ability to move the mark, just showing the intellectual incapacity, limitations of these sludge people, and primarily why you're going to see, here's even what's going on with the Epstein files, what it's doing to universities. I mean, here's another one of these proofs that these institutions cannot handle change. Why it's important that tribes do function the way they do right now, why Bitcoiners are able to get over the incredible amount of change we're experiencing, and why the other institutions, which you can judge for yourself whether they're going to make it. This is a university professor, I think a president of the university here. Look at this behavior.
Just one more. No.
Whoa!
Oh, God! I told you not to put that in my face. I didn't.
Dude, you can't do that.
Yes, you did. No, I'm not going to ask you again.
Don't
touch me. Don't touch me, motherfucker. Who the fuck put your hands on me, sir? You put your hands on me, sir. God. Damn, dude. You shoved that camera into my face, sir.
Not gonna make it. Glenn Greenwald says the context is the Epstein's key benefactor, Les Wexner, has heavily donated to Ohio State. The president of the university, whom this videographer was trying to question, has refused pressure to remove Wexner's name from Ohio State buildings, calling it cancel culture. And here's just more of the mental illness that's spreading and exactly why there's no hope for the sludge people. Burning buildings. This is a Kansas City woman. They're turning suburban women into ISIS radicals. Look at this. Lighter fluid. Not a winning formula. So the sludge people losing big time. No stopping it now. Oh no, I had other stuff. Whoops. There was the EPA one. This is great. So just to let you know what's next after this. It is going to go into a persuasion game because, of course, there's no way the elections are going to seem credible in the midterms to anybody because of the mentally ill and whatever. So Trump's probably going to get his SAVE Act stuff. He's going to have his ability to looks like it's all going through, and you can see already the reactions to it. It looks like Trump is going to be litigating 2020. It looks like what happened in Georgia is about to also happen in Arizona. So people talking about that. Maricopa County, Arizona update. The subcommittee is scrambling. Maricopa County probably going to have to look at it. And the best they can come up with to counter what Trump is doing is the following. This is too good. Joe Biden coming out this weekend, everyone. Or not this weekend, at the end of the month. Joe Biden, an evening to celebrate. He's back. Biden is headed to South Carolina later this month to commemorate his pivotal primary victory and to thank him for a lifetime of public service. Stephen Miller says, Alex, are you going to ask why an 83-year-old man with reported stage 4 prostate cancer with only months to live is just doing public events in our election year? Is this just missing a story or not? It's not going to go well. So we love it, everyone. Fun stuff indeed. So what are folks in the comments saying? Good now. Here we go. We got folks. Oh, Hank is in the house. I'm going to miss a few of these comments, but indeed, wanted to read Leo Billy's here. Your Satoshi Wedding Murder's idea of agentic AI running the marketplace has happened. You basically created a sigil that wrote your fantasies into reality. Every show you do writes reality for us. Thank you, Leo Billy. We're going for that. I do think I author the simulation from time to time. A lot of what you're talking about, Ari Fuentes and other persuasive media personalities, proves that he who tells the best story wins. That's what's going on. Don't think Joe Biden's going to be able to tell the best story. Bit behind in the stream mentioned the Idaho Statesman. I just moved away from Idaho. We are getting flooded with Californians. Yeah, I went to Florida. The Statesman is a liberal rag. I thought so. Thanks, Nolan. And we got James O'Gan. Haven't watched the show in a while. Square POS has an option to invest one. Yeah, Square got absolutely. I covered everything they announced the other day. Very cool stuff. Thanks for coming around, James. Indeed. Thanks, Nolan. Have a great weekend, brother. Indeed. I see all of you folks in the Rumble chat. I'm going to get to that in a second. I'll stay a few minutes extra, but I'm going to bring Hank to the stage right now because he's got a special announcement for what's happening on Roxham this afternoon. Hank.
Nolan.
Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
How you doing?
How are you? Happy Friday. I'm great.
Indeed, happy Friday. How you doing? How's California today on a Friday?
It's warm and sunny, and I'm going golfing later. Life is good. I can't complain. I can't complain. Yeah. And we got some big guests here on the Roxham TV News today after your show. Very exciting. We got first, we got Frank Corva and Fernando, the Bitcoin Libertarian, will be joining us during our first hour. They're always a lot of fun. And then our second hour, we have another special guest as we're going to be sitting down, both Walker America and myself, with with Cardone. So we've got a very exciting Grant Cardone coming with us today. So it's exciting times.
We love Grant. You got to ask him about how the Bitcoin for Investors week is going in New York, because I believe he's up there with Kathy Wood. I think everyone has been, I think Pompliano hosts it, and they sort of over New York for a few days. And I bet you they'll be at PubKey. I bet you they, I know a little bit of what they get up to just because I'm in the events world. So there's a lot of private spaces opened up to them in New York City that wouldn't necessarily be opened up to people just visiting. So a lot of behind the scenes Wall Streety stuff, a lot of behind the scenes Federal Reserve stuff is going on.
All right. Sexy.
Very famous libraries that JP Morgan himself might have used at one time. So they get a real tour of New York City elite Wall Street stuff there. So ask him how that's going.
I guess I'll have to do that. Yeah, there's a lot to pick his brain about since we had him on the show last time. He actually called, I mean, I think a lot of people did, the Bitcoin Treasury situation we're in now. So there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. I'm going to let you wrap up with you and your guys over here, but everybody stay tuned. Grant Cardone and more coming up on Roxanne TV News right after Nolan's show. So hope to see you there.
Yeah, take it easy, Hank. Have a great weekend. I'll see you Tuesday.
Buddy. You will. See you, buddy.
Peace.
Cheers.
There you go, everyone. That's Hank letting you know what's going on Roxham this afternoon. After the Grant Cardone show, you'll see me again doing the Canadian show. If you want to come around and hear about how things are going in Canada, I'll be around after. I'll get you a few of your comments here on Rumble because I was so far behind today. I wish I could figure out how to do this and get these up because I love sharing your comments. I have a particular love of the Rumble comments because we love Rumble. But I'll go back here to Chef Zero talking about the rapture. When I was talking about the rapture, he says, rapture is rubbish. I can prove that by the Holy Scriptures. I believe that is true. The goal of the gospel is salvation, an eternal kingdom established on earth, not escaping to heaven where sin actually comes from, not the Garden of Eden. I'm with you on that, Chef Zero. Who sinned first? Who got it? Lucifer. Pride got him. He wants power. He doesn't want to obey God the Father. Indeed, Jesus, she is horrid. Not talking about the same Jesus here. Little spitefully filled airhead. Indeed, cackling hyenas. Remember when she loved Trump? We do escape the matrix. The View are the queens of sludge. Indeed, the Spew renamed. Lance, exactly, champ. You have a way with words. Cackling, I love that word. Ever listen to coyotes at night? Their cry, and then they complain. That's the cackling. Yeah. I get that a lot in the townships where I live in Vermont. At night on a full moon, you'll hear the orgiastic coyotes with some prey they've caught, and it just is so terrible to listen to. It goes on for hours and hours and hours. Amazing to hear once, but it happens a little too much. John Paul Berg is great. He needs some more exposure indeed. Her class there is another wonderful word, unlimited. Count is right. About everything. Thank you, Chef Zero. Not everything. We do okay. Abe Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. The movie was incredible. Okay, I'm glad you liked it. I liked the movie too. I just thought the book was incredible, and I heard a lot of people complain about the movie when it came out. I liked it, but I thought I only liked it because I liked the book, and I'd read the book before. So I did like the movie, but again, I read the book, so I had the benefit of understanding what was going on. I heard people who just watched the movie didn't get it and didn't like it, but it was to me, I thought it was great. I was a big fan. Thanks for the kind words. A goal of mine is to write a book someday. Indeed, says Lance 2002. The concept of an unrealized cap gains tax and what it does to markets might as well just not play. They're not playing anyway in the Netherlands, man. These are all NPCs. This is one of the most NPC places you'll ever find in the world. You should see them complain about this gold medalist. It's too good. It's just perfect. Funny that they are driving people away from the negative sum fiat game towards the positive sum Bitcoin game. That's what we love, young Tommy. Obama is fake and gay. He sure is. Epstein's liquid capital birthed the mortgage-backed security rehypothecation scheme, says Barely 45. Obama wrote the check to bail them out. People understand this soon. I don't think they can help themselves. Presto Audio. When do Californians really do it? Wow, we haven't heard the name Ray Pete in quite a while. Loved his forums in 2015, says John C919. Killists are scary, young Tommy says. They sure are. Be careful. Bro, some retards shouldn't be allowed outside. No, we need them to come out. We need them. What would we do? We need to laugh. We need them. It keeps our spirits up. It's the best. Argument failing. Quick, put on a concerned face and appeal to the mob, says Barely 45. Sad. Is this university? It is university, young Tommy. Extreme retardation, sludge supremacy, peace and prosperity, awesome show, shilled it at our Milwaukee meetup. Smash the like, people. SU Sludge University's majors in seed oil sciences offered, says Future Hodl. We love it. Love the show, Dartoshi Sabamoto says. Wow, thanks for another great show, Nolan. Thank you, Seaberger. Fun show today, says Escape the Matrix. 2 fantastic shows in a row. Good show today. Thanks, show today. I'll have a good weekend indeed. I'll see you all later. Peace. Peace, peace, peace. I'm going to transition. You'll see the thanks for watching screen. I just want to say thanks for watching. Have a great weekend if I don't see you at the Canada show. Peace.